class is how to prepare for listing appointments. It touches a little bit on the actual listing appointment itself, but mostly it came to me because there were two agents in our office down the street here that are brand new, and they both at the same time had listing opportunities, and they just were panicking, right? And they didn't even know where to start. Like, I don't even know what to do. When you're new, you don't. How many are brand new? Okay. How many of you have had a listing? Or a listing appointment, I should say. So, yeah, so you guys are probably in the same boat, like, oh my gosh, if I did get the call, and I was talking to Jacqueline yesterday, she said, oh, I just want to be a buyer's agent, it's so much more, it's, because it's a little intimidating, right, to think you're going to give a listing appointment. And that's the way these girls were, and that's the way I was, certainly when I first started. So it's nothing new, it's normal. And so I thought, well, gosh, I started teaching these couple of girls. I spent a couple hours with them on just, what do you do to prepare? And I thought, well, this might make a good class, actually, because they really appreciated it. And what I discovered is that even though you've never given an appointment or gone to an appointment for a listing, if you've prepared for it, then you're pretty much ready. And the only thing you have to do at that point is be sociable, be yourself, and then go over all the stuff you brought, right? So being prepared, I think, is the key. And this gets back to, oh my God, you guys will get the call. You may think now that that's far away, but you'll be surprised when all of a sudden you're going to get referred by your friends or family, or someone's going to say to you, hey, I'm thinking of listing my house, and I thought I might ask you to help us out, and you'll just get But maybe after this class, and then after a little practice, you will feel a lot more at ease. What I've discovered is that there's two types of appointments that I've been on. And, there's the real intense type of people that stare at you and sort of make you feel pretty nervous. I've had that. And then there's the other one down below, which is like your friends and family, or, and you're comfortable. But the key to the one up above is that if you're prepared, you won't be scared, right? Just like today, like I spent a day and a half preparing this slideshow, thinking this whole class through. I could easily be very nervous, and I'm a little nervous because I've never taught this before. But if I wasn't prepared, I'd be a wreck, right? So it's the same thing with listing appointments. If you have gone through the steps to be prepared and get there, then you're going to feel a lot more at ease. Especially, maybe not on the first appointment, but on the second appointment for sure. And then, that's just sort of sums it up. If you just wing it and you show up half-hearted, you're going to quite possibly fail. And if you're competing against other realtors, you got to be prepared, right? So, So I'll try to make this, this is sort of mechanical, this class, right? It's not a lot about what do you say at a listing appointment and there's a little bit of that I'll talk about. And I should preface all this by saying, this is Kevin, this is what I do. So not every realtor does what I do, obviously, but you can take my advice and choose the things you like, obviously, and throw away the stuff you don't. You might say, well, I could never, that's just not my personality, or that's just not the way I would do it. Or you might take another class next month that's a realtor that's presenting their way of listing appointment. And so then you just pick and choose and do what works for you. So what happens when you get that call and you wrap the phone around yourself and you're all in a frazzle and they say, we would like to meet with you to list our home, and you've never done that? When you're on the phone, let me pass these out, sorry. And, woo! My classes are the only ones where you're guaranteed a payday.
Thank you.
That's my trademark.
Every day's a payday in real estate.
Yeah. Okay, so when you get that call, and they say we'd like you to list your home, you just thank them and say awesome, you know. And if they say, oh yeah, Bill, our neighbor Bill recommended you. He said that you were a realtor, and we thought we don't know what we're doing, so we wanted to talk to somebody. You can say awesome, yeah, I love Bill, he's a good guy. I'm honored that he did that. I'll make sure to call Bill and thank him, and I'll certainly take good care of you guys. And then you explain to them, or this is what I do, you guys, some agents don't do this, but I explain to them that I handle my listing appointments in two meetings. And the first appointment, I tell them it's an informal meeting. I'm just going to come over there, and we're going to meet each other, and you guys can tell me your story. And I want to hear all about what you're planning to do. I'd love to see your home. I have to see your home. I can't give you a value of your home without going through it every room by room. So it's informal. I'll walk through. You can ask me questions. I'll have some questions for you. Might last 30, 45 minutes at the most. And I'm going to take a lot of notes. And also, I'll take pictures that if you give me permission, I'll take pictures, because I need those pictures so that I can remember your home. As I'm doing a market analysis for you, I'm going to need to remember the details. So is that okay? And get their permission for that. You don't want to just show up and start taking pictures. That makes them feel very nervous. Like, what's he doing? And I always explain to them too, by the way, these pictures are not going on the internet. They're not going anywhere past me. It's just for me. And so we're going to have your home professionally photographed when the time comes. I've never had anybody say no. They're a little nervous, like, oh, should I clean up? And I just say, you don't really need to do that, as long as I can see the rooms clearly, and but you don't need to clean for me this time. I can look past anything, and believe me, I've seen it all.
But when the photographer comes.
Yeah, that's different when the
Yes.
photographer comes, and we'll be talking more about that later. Then explain that the second meeting will be a little more formal, and you're going to be sitting down with them and really going through the market analysis that you're going to spend 3 or 4 hours on to prepare for the value of their home, your estimate of the value of their home. And that second meeting will probably be 3 to 5 days after the first meeting, and depending on your schedule. But I never say, oh, I'll meet with you the next day or 2 days. I want them to think that I have other clients, even if I don't, right? So I'll say it'll be 3 to 5 days. I'm working with some other projects, but I'll be happy to put this in the schedule. And so then you can actually go ahead and schedule that second meeting right then and there if you want to.
Do you change that if you have competition and they're meeting with so-and-so the next day?
I don't. I actually like being the last person anyway. So if I like to kind of find out if they're meeting with other realtors, and they generally will tell you. Sometimes you need to ask, but or sometimes you just know that they're not. But you should always conduct yourself as if they are. Even if it's your very best friend in life. You always conduct yourself, you take away your friendship part of it, so to speak, and then you put on your, I'm a realtor, this is what I do, and I'm going to treat you just the way I treat every other person that I do these meetings with.
If you make your last appointment, have you ever had, say, hey, I had a meeting with this other real estate agent, I signed with him?
Yeah, in that case, it's just the way it is. That realtor came in and there was something about it. There's nothing I can really do about that. That's actually only happened to me once in 12 years. So I think what happens with me, and so it's important that in that first meeting that you, and that's why we're here, you give them just enough so that they're really curious to hear what you have to say. You're not leaving them with very much info, but you're leaving them just enough and enough professionalism that they realize that they do want to meet you a second time. Because even if they do have another realtor coming, most people want to hear the 2 opinions or 3. I've actually, last year I had an appointment, there were 6 realtors that they interviewed. It's ridiculous. And I came in second place, they told me that. So I didn't get the job, but they wanted to meet everybody, right? They wanted to hear all the opinions on value and what they should do to fix their home up and get it ready. So if that happens, c'est la vie. Move on to the next one, and that's the way it goes. Most likely, you guys in your first listing appointment, it's gonna probably be someone from your sphere. And so they're gonna give you the courtesy, I think, of finishing the 2 meetings. Now, that said, you might meet someone at an open house like I did. My very first listing was someone I met at an open house. And their home was listed, and they didn't like their realtor. And they lived in the neighborhood, and they came over and they knocked on the door, and I said, "Oh, you don't need to knock, come on in." And they said, "Oh, we don't need to see this house. We were wondering, we don't like our realtor, and we were wondering if you'd meet with us." And I was brand new like you guys. I didn't really even know the neighborhood. I didn't know a whole lot, right? So, but they thought, since I was doing an open house in that area, probably thought that was my listing. And then so I got the appointment later that day. I went and sat down with them because, see, they solicited me, so you're allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to go solicit them and try to grab a listing. But they came to me and they said, "Will you meet with us?" And I said, "Yeah." So I got it. I got that listing. That was total luck. But I wasn't prepared really. I didn't know what to do. It was the same thing. I went back and I grabbed this gal who has been a realtor for 300 years, and I said, "What do I do?" And she pushed everything off of her desk and she goes, "Okay, what do you got?" And she spent a couple hours with me. So anyway, I'm hoping after this class you guys will feel a little more confident about all that. And if that happens, it's just the way the dice roll. It may happen for you in reverse the next time, where you show up and they get rid of the other realtor, right?
Yeah. So if the clients come to you, they have an agent, they want you, they were in contract terms, how do you
I tell them, I say, I can help you, I can give you some advice, but I can't, there's boundary lines where you need to say, I can help you so far, but I at some point you would have to cancel your contract. And that's what they did. And so they already knew that they wanted to cancel their contract, they just didn't know who they were going to, they had no idea what realtor to choose. And then I came over and they liked me and they trusted me, right? And that's part of your first meeting.
And there was like a 60 days grace period after that?
No, not if you re-sign. So the 60-day thing on the contract is if you don't re-sign with another realtor, and one of the buyers that came because they had seen the home at this previous realtor's open house or something, then that realtor is due a commission.
Right.
That rarely happens. But if the homeowner signs a new agreement with a new agent, that thing goes away. That 60 days goes away.
I've had experience where I was called in, for a listing appointment, and it was somebody in my sphere that I knew, that a friend of a friend, and I pretty much thought I had it in the bag, so I didn't even give him my marketing presentation or anything. Kind of walked around the house and thought I had the listing already, and then I found out that he was interviewing like 4 other realtors.
Yeah.
So
you had, it's gone. You had that lower appointment where it was your friend.
But I was lucky, and I found when he called me later and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I am interviewing other realtors." I was like, "Shoot, I had no idea." And he actually let me come back over and show him my marketing presentation, and he ended up using it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that was a lesson for you.
The lesson for me, I could have easily lost that listing.
You could have
really easily. So.
Yeah.
You didn't have to
even if it's your, let me tell you, even if it's your brother,
you never know.
You never know your
your
brother.
Yeah.
You need to suddenly shift out of that brother thing, and you need to be the professional.
Put your realtor hat on.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because to them it's a big deal, right? It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So,
But there is people also out there that, if there's a good friend of yours, they're like, "I don't want to hear anything, just list the house," and you can kind of feel
and
that
that
out and know
happens,
that.
and certainly, but I would still find a way to slow them down a little bit.
Yeah.
And and say, okay, that's cool. Now that's awesome. Let's do it. Now here's what I need to do. I need to walk through your home because I've been in your home, 100 times, but I've never been in there to think of it as a realtor listing it. So I need to go back in, and I need to take some notes and ask you some questions and start over and do this whole thing. Start over. Okay. So explain to them and this is another reason why they want to meet you, is explain to them that you're going to provide a detailed market analysis of the home, that you're going to spend 3 or 4 hours on this CMA, and you're going to do adjustments very similar to like a realtor would do. Have you all taken Dave Hopkins' class? So that's what you're going to do. And you're not an appraiser. You always give them that disclaimer, but it's going to be very similar, about as close as you can get for free. They're getting it for free, by the way. So they are going to want to hear about that most of the time. And that you're also going to present to them your detailed marketing plan, which you're going to have written out for them, a specific detailed marketing plan. And if you don't have that, I have an example of that in my presentation that you're going to see here in a little bit. And your goal is to, you know, help them make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. There's some language in here that you guys can use that I use all the time. Hey, I want to earn your trust. I'm going to work hard. You may not choose me, but I'm going to earn your trust anyway. And I hope you do choose me. Try to set the appointments, or both the appointments, at a day and time that all the decision makers are present. If the wife's gone, don't set the appointment. If they can both be there, set the appointment. If the timing just doesn't work out and only one of them can be there for the first appointment, that's okay, but it's not ideal. Because the first appointment, it's kind of like curb appeal, right? That's my first impression of me. And that's important. So, you know, if you've impressed the husband, and he says, well, I really like the guy, you know, and she's like, oh, I know, but I really like that other guy, and she hasn't even met you, you may not get the second appointment because you didn't set it with both of them, right? You didn't have a chance to schmooze them. So you got to get that chance. Okay, preparing for the meeting, there's some things that SUMA provides that are very handy. That home seller's guide, which I have a copy of that here. By the way, here, I'll said a few things here, and during the break or something, you guys, this is basically what I take to what I call an L1. I call it an L1 because when I'm putting it in my calendar on my phone, I can, instead of typing out listing appointment number 1, I can just put L1, you know, anyway, so that's my, but this is basically everything I bring to an L1, and you can sort of look through this during the break. I'd rather not look through it now because then you won't listen to me. And I have a huge ego. So, preparing for the first appointment, don't underestimate the name tag thing also, because it sets you apart suddenly as a professional. It moves you into a different level, just a little nudge up, okay? So I do recommend name tags, and they sell them on the marketing platform at Basecamp, and you can also, I don't know where they get them from, but I would just go there because all the logos are there and everything.
Portland Badge Company.
Yeah. The presentation folders are awesome. They're about 10 or 12 bucks, but well worth the money. Okay, go ahead and spend some money on these appointments because you could be making thousands of dollars, so why not spend 30 bucks or whatever if you need to get the stuff you need. We'll talk more about that. And then the folders are great too. So at the very least, if I'm in a rush or something and it's this opportunity that I've got to hurry to, at very least they get a folder with all this stuff that I leave behind. So, all right. The first thing I do, and this is a little hard to read, but you don't need to be able to read these things because I have samples. And oh, by the way, we're going to send if you could send a note, I have a notepad actually. You guys sign up and give me your emails and I'll send you a copy of this slide presentation. And that will be helpful because you'll want to go back and go, now, what about this document? You can look at it a little closer. Please print your emails clearly so I can read them. The first thing I have, which I designed, is basically I call it a seller-client profile sheet. So I also have one for buyers. And the one for the sellers is basically all of the data that you're going to put, pretty much all of the data on an RMLS data when you have to fill in all that stuff for the listing. It's all here, front and back, two pages. And so when I go to my first appointment, I don't end up getting everything, but I get as many things as I can, like what kind of countertops are they, what kind of cabinets are they, what was the floor in the kitchen, what was, you know, things that I could get as much as I can, but pictures also got to do both, because you may not get everything with the pictures, so you kind of need to do both to back yourself up. And spend a little time, just walk around the house, write in what the exterior things are. You don't need to get the dimensions yet of the rooms. I never do that on the first appointment. It takes way too long, but for some reason I had it on that sheet. I fill it in later. This sheet it's the front thing that I staple on my file folder, because you're also going to start a new file for these people, right? Because you're going to have tons of documents to control. So
Unless you're going paperless.
I will also, if you email me, I'll send you this and the buyer one that I have, and you can, they're in Word format, so you can change them around to your liking if you like, but at least you have, is there another one that I'm missing? Do we have one of these? Or?
I don't think there is. No.
Okay.
This is great.
Okay, but were you going to say something? You look like you were.
Oh no, yeah, I'm saying, you know, I think it's going off from Lisa's point. You should go paperless, and that's what SkySlope is for. But it is great to have paper files too. I like having physical copies too. It is nice.
Yeah,
Keeps you organized.
if you're comfortable walking in with your iPad and doing all that, you can do pictures and take notes at the same time. That's cool.
Oh, no, I mean, when your comment about having a file and starting the file, because that's the way I've always been, but I'm gonna try to not.
Yeah. Well, you know, to be very honest with you, I can't prepare for listing appointments without paper. I'm writing notes, and I'm very purposely, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, but I'm writing notes on these documents that I'm gonna be showing to them, and I would prefer during my listing appointments to be handing them paperwork that they can keep. It's much more powerful.
With that part of it, but all that contract stuff that you get going later.
Later.
I used to keep hard copies of everything in a file.
Sure.
Then I would duplicate it and give them a final folder.
Yeah.
But title gives them all of that too.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. As much paperless as you can do that you're comfortable with, do it. Like later on when I show you the listing, you know, you're gonna in your L2 meeting, you're gonna want them to sign the listing, right? And it's 7 pages or whatever it is of everything they got to initial and sign. If you're comfortable doing that on your iPad, go for it. I'm not quite there yet. I'm trying, but
I'm gonna try.
I have an iPad mini, and so it's just I need to get a real iPad, you know. But yeah, but I do as much, you know, digital as I can. Okay, so then this is the second thing, and that I print out here is the previous listing of the home. I look in the RMLS to see, was there a previous listing in the home? How many of you know how to move around in the RMLS? Are you familiar with it? Do you know how to look up an old listing yet? If not, the RMLS tool is your main tool as a realtor here. So I really highly strongly recommend that you guys prioritize and get into the RMLS classes that they teach for free. They're free. You need to go out to their building, which is out by the airport, but well worth it. And you've got to know that tool. You have to know how to search things and how to analyze properties and stuff. And that's part of, if you took Dave's class, to do a CMA, you really have to know the RMLS tool. Hey, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry to be late.
No worries. So we're just talking about, we're talking about the items to prepare for your, you don't want one? Your listing, your first listing appointment of 2. That when you get a call from someone that wants you to list your home, the way I do it is that I tell them this is going to be 2 appointments, and the first one is gathering information. I'm going to take some pictures, and the second one is about me going over the analysis with you and my marketing strategies, etc. So this is the second tool that you bring. You can watch the video to catch up. He's going to have a video later. So the old listings, so what do I look at? I look at the, you know, I kind of compare it with the RMLS tax summary that I also print out. And so if you guys, one thing about this is I can't go back, or can I? Oh, I can. You know, if you look at, oh, I can't point though. So I compare the beds, bath, square foot with the tax summary, and you guys know that on listings you can you can click there on the tax number and it'll go right into the county summary, right? Well, you need to print that too, okay? Because you're going to be studying that and comparing that with the trio, which is another thing you're going to print out. But so let's see. So the way in the RMLS to get that is, for those of you that don't know, you can do a tax search by address. So if you go up to the search folder and go down to search tax address and click on that and then enter in the address, and then it will bring up that county record. Because a lot of the homes may not have been listed previously, right? When the RMLS came in, maybe they were listed before the RMLS came into existence, or for whatever reason there was no previous listing. And so that's the way to find this info which you need. And of course the other way is to click on the previous listing if there was one, just click on that and you'll get this. Print it out, start looking at it, square footage, beds, bath, you know, what was their loan amount? You can read all kinds of stuff you can learn about about this property, okay? For practice, you might want to just print one of those and read it if you haven't done that yet. And there's one here that you can look at. So then, after you've done that, you need to call a title. Yes?
I have a question about the square footage. So like, I understand you can go back and see like, oh, okay, last time it was listed, it was 1,800 square feet. But what if they do addition? Like, who do you contact? Like, how do you measure that square footage?
So if the seller tells you, if you show up and the county records say it's 1,800 square feet, and you get there and what I do is I kind of go over the trio with them a little bit, and I say, okay, this county record stuff shows that your home is 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and 1,800 square feet, and then they stop you and they go, no, oh no, we did this addition back here and we have 250 more square feet. Oh, okay, well, that's fine. Do you have an appraisal report or something documented that shows that that is official? If they don't, they may have done that unpermitted, for one thing, which is a whole nother subject. Yeah. But if they don't have anything official, you really have to go by because you have some liability when you're advertising a square footage amount. You really have to go by what the county records say. But in the private remarks, you can say to the realtors, additional 250 square feet, undocumented or something, you know. But if they have it, most people will have something official, like even if it's a contractor's schematic, right? Something in writing that shows this is official. But if it's not on the county records, that very well may mean what?
It's not permitted.
Yeah, the county doesn't know about it. Because the county, when they know about that stuff, they're going to tax them more, and then they make it official. So you might have a little problem on your hands there.
Okay.
And then you need to talk to them about the taxes will probably go up
Measure
if
the
that
whole house, square
becomes.
footage, show you.
Yeah.
Be
I
adjustment.
have a contact.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But gosh, I can't remember their name. They said something come out from St. John's. But I'll let you know.
Yeah, you might, what Lisa said was, and the other little issue you might have is that, you know, if they want to report that to the county to get the additional square footage in their listing, the county's going to be like, well, okay, when did you do that addition? 5 years ago? Oh, so your home 5 years ago was worth this much more. And they will assess you that much over a 5-year period. You're gonna. So the seller. So it's not your place to say. You just need to advise them that, you know, if it's unpermitted, you really should. My advice is that you need to have this permitted to sell your home. That's my advice. It's up to you. Because that's kind of the legal thing, right? And now you can sell your home unpermitted. It's not illegal. Anybody can do it.
It'll be harder.
It's harder. It's harder because the buyer says, well, what am I buying here? I'm
Yeah.
buying into who did the work and how do I know the electrical was done right? Could there be a fire? And see, that's why the county, that's another reason, besides just grabbing money, the county does care about safety. So they don't know who did the work and was the electrical done right or the HVAC and all that stuff.
So in that scenario you're describing, if you do get a buyer who says, okay, I'll take that on, and then they, after the fact, decide they want to go ahead and make it official and get it permitted, could they then become liable for the back taxes on that? Or would the county go back to the original buyer for that, or what?
They wouldn't be liable for when they didn't own the property.
Okay. Could they still go back to the original owners for that, after the fact, even
No.
though they don't own it anymore?
I don't think so. I don't know, that's a legal question, I wouldn't know, but I doubt it.
Refer to an attorney on that one for sure.
Yeah. I don't think,
Sound advice.
I think the county would be more into, moving forward, we want, so now if you buy the home and you wait 5 years, then
Right.
you have it
That's another
permitted.
story, yeah.
Then they may go back with you and say, well, really, this home was not assessed properly when you bought it.
Right.
So we are actually, depending on what it is, if you really added some significant value, they're gonna probably do that.
So the buyer's risk is really in the quality of the work and things being up to code.
And the cost of permitting, because that's an unknown. You could
Okay.
have the county inspector could come look at it and go, I'm sorry, but the height of this structure is above code, above requirement. You're gonna have to take that roof off and lower it.
Okay,
And suddenly you got a $10,000,
okay,
and so the buyer doesn't know.
right.
So what about this scenario, like, the buyer agent needs a loan, so it gets appraised. So that new appraiser will say, hey, this is 250 square feet more. Then does that get added on when he buys the house?
No, that appraisal doesn't go to the county. So in Jacqueline's question, the buyer or the seller could take that appraisal that they had for their refinance or whatever. They can use that as proof that the square footage is more, but it doesn't prove that it was permitted.
Right.
So it's the buyer's due diligence, and the buyer's agent, those of us that are representing a buyer, have to advise our client, okay, they got 250 square feet that's not in the county records. We need to know if it's permitted. And so I always advise my clients that it's not my job really to go down to the county and do that research, because then there's a legal problem with that, where if I go down and do research for them at the county and I relay the information wrong, I've got a possible liability. So my company doesn't allow me to do that. But I'm strongly advising that you go down to the county and talk about this piece of property and find out everything you can, and definitely find out if that structure was permitted. Because they'll tell you, but I can't do it for you because of liability issues. And then it's up to them, right? You've done your thing. And then document that you told them that, and if it's in an email, even better, hold on to that. Okay? All right, let's move on. Good questions. So the trio is, how many of you have met with a title rep and you're comfortable with a title rep right now? Okay, put that on your list too if you haven't, because that's important. You want to meet with 2 or 3 title reps, and they come into your office all the time and pitch to you. So pick one that feels comfortable to you and say, hey, I would like to talk to you. I'm new, right? They are great. They really do want to help you, and they want to earn your business. So give them a shot. And they support us at our meetings, so I would start with those folks, and then they will help you with this trio thing. They have a customer service department that all you're going to need to do is email the customer service and say, I need a trio please for this address. And they'll send it to you digital in that day, hopefully. And the trio, they call it a trio because it consists of the county records, basically, the summary page, and then it has a copy of the current deed that's on file with the county. And what I do with that, and if you could see this thing, I'm circling the names to make sure that the buyer I'm meeting with is actually on the deed.
The seller.
Yeah, or the seller, yeah. And so sometimes you meet with the seller and it's, Jane Hansen, but then the deed says it's in trust, Jane Hansen Trust, a family trust. Well, all of a sudden we have that's different. So, because it's different because the buyer needs to write the offer to the Jane Hansen Trust, not Jane Hansen. So you just need to know that. That's why I look at those things. You don't need to read all the legal mumbo jumbo underneath that. Just check the name, okay? And then the third thing of the trio is the map. And it shows you where the property is, just to make sure that you know exactly where it is. And sometimes, not in that one, but sometimes you'll have tax information. It will show you whether or not they've paid the taxes. I don't know why you don't always get that, but it's just occasionally I get that. So, got it? Okay, these are all things that I'm prepping myself. These are not things all these things that I'm bringing to the meeting. This is for me to get knowledge about this property. Zillow. You can believe that they have already checked Zillow. 90% of everybody has looked at their property value on Zillow. All right, so you need to go there and look at what it says. And you probably, might have an idea, well, gosh, I know that property is worth more than that in this market. And so you might think it's got to be worth at least $350, because you know the neighborhood and you know the market's hot or whatever. So, but Zillow says 326, or it could be the opposite, where you think, oh, that's really, that seems high. I'm thinking the most would be 300, but the client sees that, so then you know that, okay, I've got to know that when and if they bring that up, what to say. And they say, in the first meeting, they say, well, we did check the Zillow, and it showed that it was 326, and what do you think about that? Then you can say, well, to be honest with you, I don't trust Zillow. It's a good tool for a very generic, broad usage, and what you need me to do is to do a very thorough analysis of your property that takes in the differences between all of the comparable properties, which that is not what Zillow does. This is an algorithm that does something different. So, although, yes, I looked at your Zillow also, I saw that it was 326, but I don't use that as any measure. It's only a ballpark thing. And I frankly tell them flat out, by the way, I only look at Zillow because I know you did, but I don't use it. And and they go, yeah, we know, everybody looks at it. And most everybody has heard by now that Zillow can be off by as much as 10%. And when you're looking at a $500,000 to $800,000 home, that's a lot of money. That's a big swing, right? So, and Zillow themselves even admit it. I think they have a disclaimer somewhere on their website that says we can be off by as much as 10%, and you need to seek the advice of an appraiser or a realtor. So that's what you are. Okay? But have it in your folder, look it over so that you know. You can even look at the comps that they used to come up with that number and see. But see, Zillow isn't doing anything with the condition of the home. Like this home has a remodeled kitchen, this one doesn't. This one backs to a green space, this one doesn't. This one has a view of Mount Hood, this one doesn't. All it's looking at is the very basic stuff. So, okay? But you need to know. The next thing I do after I've looked at all that stuff, and this is me getting knowledge about this property, but it's also, this next thing is called, I call it a market snapshot. And it is not by any means meant to show the client the value of their home. And all it is I'm going in and I'm doing a map search. Depending on the property, what an appraiser does is they will go, I think they typically will start with like a half-mile radius. Depending on the neighborhood, they may only go a quarter mile and see how many comps they can find. But what I do is I start with a mile radius. And if you don't, again, this is another RMLS tool that you need to learn how to use to be able to do that. And so I'm programming it to do a mile radius and also no price range. Usually, again, that could change depending on the home and how many listings. But what it is I want to provide the client with a snapshot of the radius in their 1 mile area of exactly what's been going on in the market. So I'm printing out, I'm telling it to find for me active, bumpable, pending, and sold only in the last 6 months. Sometimes I do 3 months. And the reason I do 3 months, or sometimes the reason I narrow down to a half a mile, is because some neighborhoods are, if you program this into, like I think my example in here is Sherwood, you get 600 listings or something, active, bumpable, pending, sold the last 6 months. So that's too many. I don't need that many to give them a snapshot of what's going on. So I narrow down the field to a half a mile or 3 months, and then I come up with maybe 80 or 100, whatever it is. Something that, and the reason for that I'll talk about in a minute. Sorry, Tyler, I'm going to move back over here. Okay, so I program it in, and then it spits out the information, and I'm going back.
Okay.
Should
Just
get
stay
a
there.
laser pointer. And I circle active. These are all the active listings. In this particular search, I can't read it. Maybe we should zoom in, or we should focus. Oh, it is focused. That's what the squishing is doing that. I think in this search it was, where is this? Oh, this was Northeast 80th. Okay, so this was, I think, 6 months and a mile, okay? And so currently in that field there were, I can't read it, sorry guys. Sorry Tyler, I'm just gonna sit and do
You're
it.
fine.
I can't read in this either. Oh, that's different. Okay, so I'll just say, it looks like 48 listings, and then I circle pending. I'm going back. I gotta go back, sorry. Circle the pending. Okay, I'm coming back again.
I'm just gonna keep it right here.
I circle the summary. By the way, you can tell, in case you guys don't know this, you can tell the system how to add this little summary at the end of each category. And there's this little checkbox at the top when you do your search that says add summary, and that's what that is, which you do want that. If any of you want a private lesson on this, or a group of you, I'm happy to sit and just show you this. And then
And this is in Zillow, right? Or I mean Zillow, RMLS?
This is RMLS. Yeah, so this is actual data, pending, and then sold, past 6 months, and I write that in. This is where I'm starting to write things in because I want the client to see that I'm actually working on this and it isn't just the computer doing stuff for them. It's a little bit of it's a sort of a, just a mental thing. Okay, those are some more solds. And then I circle the sold. This is the amount of sold properties. The days on market I've circled here because I'm gonna talk with them a little bit about that at the meeting. The average sold price, I circle that because it's easy for people to kind of understand. I don't circle median because people don't really know what median is, and even when you explain it to them, they don't get it. So most don't. And then square footage. So basically it shows the average sold price and this is the average square foot, right? So then I can kind of compare, in my head I'm just thinking, okay, well their house is about the same square footage, and so we're probably going to be in this range, but that is not a reflection of value. It is not a market analysis. It's just giving me a little bit of a heads up. And also, I am showing this to them at my meeting because I'm giving them this market snapshot. And the next thing I'm doing is I'm analyzing this market snapshot a little bit so that they feel like I've done some work, which I am, I'm doing work. And I'm telling them, okay guys, we got 84 sold listings in the past 6 months. That means if we divide that, 84 divided by 6, in this area, in your area, we're averaging about 14 sales a month. Okay, good, got it? Then I tell them, now we have 40 current listings in that same area. And so that means with 40 listings and this rate, we're selling about 2.85 homes, or I'm sorry, we have 2.85 months of inventory in your area. So in other words, if no other homes came on the market, it would take almost 3 months to sell all the homes that are on the market, okay? So it might take 3 months to sell your home. but that's why you're gonna hire me, because we're not gonna go there. We're gonna get it done way sooner than that, with my marketing and with pricing properly. Some of these people are not priced properly. And the truth is that not all of these active listings are even competing with you, right? Some of them are way down here in this higher price range that we're not there. So that's not what we're worried about. We're not worried about these lower priced ones. And so I have an idea at this point, by the way, before I meet with the clients, of where their home should be listed. So what I'm telling them, but I don't tell them that. Except I say, I think we're going to be somewhere in here. I'm not really sure, but you know, and they usually agree because they know too what their home is probably worth. So I do a bracket and I say, really, this is your current competition. So we really only have approximately 19 homes. And so really it looks like about a month. We should be able to get your home sold, you know, at the outside, a month and a half. And so this is your current competition, 19 homes. By the way, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you'd like to go look at some of these homes, I'm your guy. Let's go look at them. And so all this scribbly stuff, it all makes me look like a professor to them, right? Even though I'm not really giving them the value of their home, I'm just saying, I always like to leave this with people because it shows them a market snapshot of what's going on in their area, okay? And I very clearly tell them, this is not an analysis of your home's value. It's just a tool, and it's where I start. And they love that. They think, oh wow, cool, yeah, he did some work. Okay? How many other realtors do this? Very few. Probably something maybe similar, some of them, but...
And you're gonna email us the slideshow?
I'm going to email you the slideshow. You should be able to read it better, and then if you can also get a hold of me if you have questions or whatever. It's
Lester,
fine.
you should put your stuff on this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and there's a sample in here, and in a minute, each of us we're gonna do a practice one, so you'll get to see one here in a minute. By the way, I don't think I said, some agents will do their listing appointments in one appointment.
Yeah.
And I love it when I go up against someone like that. That's like an ideal situation. Exactly.
Yeah.
The seller at one time, it's happened 3 times actually, where the sellers met with me and I explained this whole 2-meeting process and how I had to learn about the home before I could make an analysis of it. And then the other realtor showed up with a CMA already done. They'd never seen the home.
Nope.
And the seller just went, how accurate could this be?
Yeah.
And he didn't do any adjustments, or she. No adjustments like Dave taught us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they came with this computer, Zillow algorithm type thing. And they said, hi, I'm your guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I get those listings every time because they realize like, oh yeah, Kevin's obviously, a realtor that knows what he's doing. This other person maybe. So that's why I recommend 2 meetings. If you show up with an analysis, even if it's your friend, they're going to question you. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? So, everybody has heard about this. If you haven't, it's state law that you need to deliver this upon the first substantive meeting of a prospect or a new buyer or seller. Substantive, what does that mean? Well, does that mean if I'm run out to open a house for a buyer, that called on a lead, that I need to give it to them? Yes, that's substantive. You're showing a home. You need to have these in your briefcase, in your folder, ready to go. Don't wait and have to run to the office to print them out. You should have them in your briefcase ready. And then you need to have them sign these things. And because SUMA wants to know that you're doing it. So they need to initial that they received it. You give them a blank copy, you keep the initialed one. And so I have 2 of these in my in this presentation. I have 2 of them. One to give to them so they can keep it. And of course you explain it to them. And this class is not about explaining stuff like that. That's, you know, but if you don't know what that says, you need to read it and you need to be able to explain that, just like all the other documents, and why you're giving it to them. And I always explain to them that it's state law, that I give this to you the first time we meet. And have them sign it. Make it a big deal, like you're following the law, because guess what the next realtor's not going to do? They're not going to follow the law, they're going to forget. And then they're going to go, God, not only did he give us that market snapshot, he had us do this state law thing. He doesn't do an analysis until the second meeting. We show up, you know, and the other guy had the CMA, he didn't have this. You're going to get the listing every time. But more importantly, it is state law, so you need to do it, okay? Is a substantive meeting when you're at a cocktail party and someone's asking you about real estate? No. That's different, you know. But if you call them and you say, hey, let's meet in my office, you know, we can look at homes and chat about things, and then that's a substantive meeting. That's okay. Now, who's regulating that? Nobody. But I use it because I love it. It's a tool for me to show that I'm a level higher than the next person. Yeah. And by the way, you guys might be competing with me, and I hope you get it. But this is the type of realtor that's been in the business maybe 12 or 40 years like Dave, and you're competing with those people. So how do you, these are little nudges that I'm giving you, that how do you compete? This is how. These are little things that matter. So really at the first meeting, I'm only leaving behind a very small, I'm not leaving them a whole lot of substance, but I've shined my personality on them. I've talked about their home. I've gathered information at that meeting. And then I've left behind the agency pamphlet that is required, the market snapshot, maybe this home seller's guide, which I think is really great. If you look at it in there, it's just a summary of the sort of the road that the seller's the path they're gonna go down. And it's very general, but it's good for people that have never sold a home before, or even, you know, anybody, just leave it. And then the presentation folder is for your, now, I didn't talk about this. I try to avoid giving them my presentation, my seller presentation at that first meeting. This is an if necessary kind of thing. And I never know until I actually get there if I'm gonna feel like I should leave my presentation or not. The reason is I feel like this meeting is not about me. This meeting should be focused on their needs. I'm providing this service because I care about them. It's part of me earning their trust. And also I like to hold off on my presentation about me and Summa until we're in that second more formal meeting. Now sometimes they might say to you, well, hey, we already met with 2 other realtors and, you know, we got to get this thing going and we don't know if, you know, then you might decide, so I always carry it with me and I have it here. Then I might decide to say, well, okay, let me tell you a little bit about me. Is that okay? Do you have 5 minutes? And then I'll go through my presentation and explain I'll explain my unique selling points, why they should hire me, Summa, you know, what's great about Summa. And I basically breeze through this. I don't go through every page, but I go through the highlights, which are things like, you have a 100% guarantee with me. If you don't like what I'm doing, or if you change your mind about listing your home, we tear up your contract, no cost to you. That's my promise to you. And then, you know, who am I, who's Kevin? If you haven't read about me online, these are some of the awards and some of the designations that I've earned. And so I might highlight a couple of those. And then, by the way, I have some testimonials in the back here from some of my clients. And even I have a reference page. If you want to call some of these people, it's there. And SUMA, I've been with SUMA for 6 years. It's fantastic. I was at RE/MAX before that for 5 years. And I love the company. It's local, it's technology driven. We have about 175 agents or so, and we all network together. We have great training, great teamwork. It's just a really great company. And that's about all I need to say. They don't need to hear anything else. They just need to know that I have faith in my company. And a lot of them now have seen the SUMA signs everywhere. So, you know, at first it was a little harder because SUMA, we didn't have quite the exposure that we do now, so it's great. And then I add the RE/MAX thing because that's my little tool to say, oh, okay, because, you know, RE/MAX is pretty well known. So you may have something in your background, like you may say before that I was a graduate at whatever, you know, school, or you may have I was a doctorate, I don't know what it is. Something that nudges you up.
I was a nurse.
Yeah, before that I was a
Have a
nurse.
halo effect.
Yeah, I've worked with people my whole life, and now I've decided this is where I want to go. But keep it brief, because they don't really want to hear this. That is not the reason for this meeting. You got it.
Me.
So
Follow that me.
and even in the second meeting, I present this, and I do it in a very. I've thought it through. I don't go in there and wing these things, and I suggest you guys all think it through too. Like, how do I envision this meeting? What's the order of things that we're going to do? And I have all my documents in order. So as I'm going to talk through things, it's in order here, so I can go like this, right? They don't know that, but I know that. And then if I need to wing it and change things up while I'm there, then I do. But at least I have what? A plan. I have a plan. I've thought it through. I'm not just showing up there willy-nilly, right? I have really thought through this meeting. And I've also envisioned, how do I want it to go? Oh, I'd really like, you know, I'm into meditation and stuff, so, you know, that part of me is like, I really want these people to connect with me and trust me, and I want to be able to smile and laugh and, you know, and also be a professional. And then, you know, if you set your mind right, your meeting will go really well. It just will, okay? And there may be people you're competing with, but you might get the job.
No, you will do that.
You will get the job.
Right?
Well, you will. But the main thing is you pat yourself on the back because you did it. You know, and
Yeah.
now the next one, every time you do a listing, now I don't even get nervous for listings unless haven't had time to prepare for listing appointments. Then I'm nervous because I have to totally wing it, and you can get busted. They know when you're totally winging it or when you're prepared. They see it. So there's a difference. All these little things here. I thought that was kind of a fun statement. And then take lots of pictures. You want to remember that beautiful bathroom. I've learned that you know, I never can tell when I get back. I used to have a problem with, I can't remember if they had an air conditioner, you know, because I actually add value if there's an air conditioner. And so take a picture of that air conditioner, you know, or heat pump, whatever it is. And the seller, you know, is going to, inevitably as they're showing you their home, they're going to be in the way of the picture and they're going to get nervous. Just remind them again, don't worry, these pictures are just for me, they're not going anywhere. Put them at ease about the pictures thing, but get all the rooms, front, back, and sides, and try to get a close-up of the roof if you can, and the siding. Because I've also gotten back home and I've got that picture, and I'm like, oh, crud, I don't remember if that was wood, or fiber cement, or what it was. Now, it's not hugely important to do a value of their home. It is important because there is an adjustment for that. But, you know, if you miss that, it's okay. But now I've done it enough. Now I've made the mistake enough.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting everything right.
LP.
Yeah, you
So
never
it's
know.
my first listing.
You can always call after. I try to avoid calling, but if it's important, like, but you don't want to call after and go, you know, did your home back to a green space? You know, that shows you're not very observant. So you kind of got to catch these things before, right?
How do you know, like LP or whatever? Because I don't
Yeah.
I'm looking at that.
Ask someone else who knows.
Okay.
Google it. What is it? What does
Yeah,
it
you can go,
look like?
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I did.
Yeah. And then, you know, so then you can, that's the kind of call that you probably could make and say, you know, I really couldn't tell, do you know, Mr. Seller, is your home fiber cement, or was that, you know, Louisiana Pacific by any chance? Oh, no, it's hardy plank, those, you know, or during your listing appointment, you could ask.
Okay.
So something more of a technical specificity
Yeah.
rather than. So I can't remember if your house faced the busy street or if
Yeah.
it faced the side street.
Right, yeah. Did you have 3 bedrooms or 4?
Yeah.
That's a no-no, right?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes, you know, the county records is not correct. Quite often, the county records are not correct. It'll say 3 bedrooms, but it's clearly a 4. For no reason at all, you know, not that they added an addition or anything, it's just wrong, right? So don't trust the county records. You know, one of the biggest things is it cedar or just regular wood? You know, cedar is sometimes hard to know, and so you know, as you're walking around the house, just go, oh, nice, is this cedar? Or, you know, and they usually know, but you can always take a picture and ask a contractor too, or another realtor. And then that's about it, you know. Let me see if you know, the main thing after the meeting is the first thing I do is go home and write a thank you card and put the stamp on it, put it in the mailbox immediately before I go to bed. I want them to get that thank you card before the next appointment, and I want them to get it in the next day or 2 as a second touch that puts me one more step above the other realtor that didn't do that. Wow, that Kevin did. He did that state law thing, he did that market snapshot, he took a bunch of pictures, he asked questions, he was nice, he sent a thank you card. We definitely want to meet with him again. He's in the running. That's all I need to know is I'm in the running, right? Okay, let me just look at my notes here. I've been winging it. That's not good. But this is the first time I've taught this, so I'm just kind of telling you what I do, I guess.
So do you take your, when I first started at SUMA, I put my CMAs in here.
Yeah.
With the cloud CMA thing that SUMA has.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you just, I like the way that you can have this already done and you don't have the CMA
Right.
in here. So this is ready to go and at the first meeting if you need it.
I do separate. I have my CMA in a separate one, and that's a separate one. Now, I have an example in the second half of our class of one that Steve Mays, we use in our office as a sample, so realtors can see it. And it has both in the folder, and it looks very nice. It's just that I may not be ready to give that to them. I don't, you know, if I have to give them something in the first meeting, I feel like I need to,
Right.
then I've, all of a sudden I'm giving them the CNA,
You can't give them the
I
CMA.
can't, I haven't even done that yet,
Yeah.
so.
I like that idea.
So I have, I want to talk about this a little bit, not to brag, but I have a resume, and this came about because I was at another open house and some people were interested in me, and they asked me, do you have a resume? I'm doing an open house, right? And they were nervous. They didn't really know what to ask me. So they asked, do I have a resume? Which sounds like logical to them because when you're hiring someone, they should have a resume. And I didn't. I had nothing. I just said, well, I don't really have that, but if you go online, you can read about me. And I said, and I explained to myself a little bit. But so since then, I've put together this one-page thing, and I actually now have a brochure too. But it's it talks about my designations, and there's a brief description, and I believe it's in there for you to look at. And so I realized early on in my career, and I'm passing this on to you guys, is that yes, you are going to be possibly going up against realtors with more of this stuff, right? I was on House Hunters, I was a member of the Master Circle, I'm an Energy Trust ally, I'm a CRS agent, which means Certified Residential Specialist, and that's one of the highest designations you can get. Only 4 or 5% of the entire nation of realtors have this designation. I got that purposely so I could brag about that. And you can get it. It isn't hard. It takes a few years, but you can get it. And then I'm also a National Association of Realtors realtor, right? And so you may not have some of these things, but you can start off with, I'm this.
Yeah.
I'm also a member of PMAR, they have a logo. I'm a member of the RMLS, they have a logo. I'm a member of SUMA, they have a logo. So if you're very beginning, you do have these things. And then you put a brief, positive, forceful statement about what they are, and you explain that that's what you have. Now, my question to you guys is, even though you're early on in your career, what are you doing, or what are you thinking about doing, to make your listing appointments more powerful next year? So 1 year from now, will you maybe have one more designation that sets you apart from the other realtors? Maybe you get a GRI, Graduate Realtor Institute, which is where I started. Once you get the GRI, which is, do I have it on here?
Yeah, is that the one?
It's this one, I think.
Yeah.
That actually takes care of, I think it's about, I don't know how many credits of this actually apply towards your CRS. So once you get the GRI, you're a third of the way done with CRS.
And it's your continuing ed credit as well, too, right?
And it's your continuing ed credit. So you're actually, now in your first year of 2 years of, is it two?
Oh, yeah.
First year of renewal,
Yeah.
you gotta do this whole different thing, but that doesn't matter. You should still be working on maybe GRI, or there's lots of designations that you could get. Let's say maybe, I like working with old people, senior people, sorry. So I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna take this class on senior, I don't remember what it's called, but you're designated to work with seniors. So then you have that on your resume next year. And you're able to say, oh, and by the way, I'm a senior specialist, and you're in King City doing a listing appointment, right? I have additional training and sales expertise on working with seniors. So my question to you is, what are you doing now to think about next year, so that you can improve this, so that by the time you're maybe 5 years in or 6 years in, because you're in this for the long haul, right, that you can compete with Kevin or Dave or Tyler by then. I got Tyler right now. I got him. There's no issue right now. He's moving up quick. No, I'm kidding. So, and then there's this dumb 5-star award. And you may get nominated for the Portland Monthly Magazine 5-star award, which really means nothing. But the general public doesn't know that. But someone nominates me, I don't know who's doing it, every year, and it's sort of a gimmick. The magazine is trying to get revenue they want me to market in the magazine. And so they're trying to, it's a marketing thing. But I get this award every year, and so I use that and it's a customer service award that they say is legit. They say it's legit. You've been nominated by your peers, and then you meet certain sales amounts to be in the magazine, and so you get it. That doesn't really mean anything. I do a good job, by the way, but it's one more logo that I can put in there. And I got lucky I was on House Hunters. That was just total fluke. But I use that all the time. It's on my business card.
Everybody watches House Hunters. When
Yeah.
was that? House Hunters.
Oh, 2011. You can look it up on iTunes. For $3 you can watch the episode. It was called Musical Family Needs Space or something like that. Musical Family Needs Space.
I did
2011.
find it
Funny
on
episode.
HGTV, but the video is not available.
Yeah, I think you have to go to iTunes
Because
and
they've
pay
got
$3.
tons in their archives.
It's funny because I met with some folks in my L1 meeting. It was like last week. I went back for my L2 meeting last week, and they went, "We watched your episode."
Oh, fun.
It was cool. Okay, so I was honored that they spent $3 to watch me. I don't get any royalties.
You should.
So even though I'm doing a lot of talking now, it's to help you so that you don't do a lot of this blah, 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 I'm the best, right? It's about them. Ask them questions. What is their emotional part of this? If you can get to that level, that's great. You know, like whatever it is, like, oh, we really want to get to another, sell this home so we can buy something, ding, ding, ding,
Right.
in a better school area. Little Johnny's going to be going into first grade, and the school district, you know, well, there's two things I learned right there. First of all, they may be buying a home, and second of all, they don't like the school, which if I haven't figured it out already, I should have looked it up already, but if I haven't, that school might have a low rating, which means it's harder to sell the property, right? So then I instantly go back and look up the school ratings if I haven't already. But that is on my list here that I'm giving you of things to prepare is know the schools because they might ask you a question about that, or you may talk about it. Be ready because I swear to God, sometimes it's the first thing people ask is what? Any ideas what the very first thing some people might ask, even on the phone when they call you?
How much will you list it
my
for?
house for?
Yeah. What do you charge?
Oh,
Be-
what do you charge?
What's your commission? Yeah. So we have to, all of us individually make that decision about how we're going to answer that question. I suggest if you don't know the answer to that question that you talk it over with your principal broker. And certainly the brokerages have a minimum that they tell you in the handbook. You can only go this far. I think it's 5% actually, maybe. I don't know if each franchise SUMA brokerage is different, but in our brokerage, you're really not allowed to go below 5% without getting permission from your principal broker first. Or Marcus in my case. And so I've had some instances where I needed to do that, and I went and talked to him, and he approved it. But every independent agent is different, depending on the broker has to make a decision based on that agent. So you need to check, and then have them help you formulate an elevator statement as to what you're going to say to that. I'm not going to tell you what I say right now because I don't want to plant something into you that maybe your principal broker may not approve. So I'm going to just leave it at that and let you guys check into that. But be ready to answer that question because they will ask.
Are you going over your second, your L2 in more detail? Are you done? Are we done?
No, we're not done.
Oh, good.
We're
okay.
halfway.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah, so make sure you thank them. Schedule that second appointment if you haven't already. Don't leave without scheduling that. Unless they say, well, oh God, it's like the kiss of death. If they say, hey, we'll get back to you, that's the kiss of death. There's something wrong if they're not ready to schedule that second appointment. There's something. You've hit a nerve or you've blown it, I think. Unless it's authentic, genuine, and they're just saying, well, we're nurses and we don't get our schedules till Monday, so we won't know, then you're probably okay. But if they're just like, well, we'll get back to you, it's like, But that's another reason why I don't like to give them too much, but give them just enough to get them curious, right? And thank them, and then do that thank you note right after, okay? And then, so now, what time is it, Jack?
10:18.
Okay, so before you go, we have time, okay? Before we do that, we are going to do, and you can get together with a friend if you like and do this, but I've printed out as if I had a new listing appointment, and this home I needed to do a market snapshot. So everybody take one of those. If you want to pair up, go ahead. If you don't have to. But let's prepare, and I'll go back to that slide, as if you were going to study this home, and this is the stuff you want to get at. Go ahead and circle the places that you kind of want the seller to see. Like, sellers have never seen this, right? So you kind of want to highlight, like circle where it says active, and then circle down below in the summary where it says total, oh, I have bumpable in there too. Well, you can, I sort of ignore bumpable, but circle the summary part where it says total 12 pending and total sold. And then figure it out.
19 current listings.
Pretend like you're talking to a seller. How would you explain it to a seller?
Oh, okay. So currently there are 19
Active.
listings active in this half-mile radius, and based on 11 selling per month, we are dividing the current listings by 11, and that gives us 1.72 months worth of inventory.
And then I add the last thing, which is, so 1.72 months of inventory just means that if no one else added new homes, it would take, at this rate of 11 per month, a month and 3/4
7 weeks.
to sell all the homes. But, you know, that doesn't mean a whole lot because there are gonna be new competitors coming on, right? This is just a snapshot in time, just to give us, it's only to give us sort of an introductory on what we can learn about what's going on. Okay,
What number is
What's your name?
considered, Lisa,
Lisa?
what number is considered low inventory? Like
Well, we're pretty low now. Yeah, like this is pretty low. Like a
4
normal,
months, 3 months?
yeah, 3 to 4 months is like a normal market. Even 6 months is considered normal
Okay.
real estate market. So
low
we've been
is-
in a seller's market with low inventory for years now,
Mhm.
and this is pretty low. There's
Under
the
3.
current RMLS report shows, I think it's 29 or 31 days is the average. And so the normal in a regular market where everything's sort of is, I think it's 3-4 months, 5 is, you know. Yeah, because when I first started, it took, and this was before 2007 and 8 collapse. You know, the market was more like 3 months, and it was normal that your home listing would be on the market for 2 months, and then you get an offer. Now, if you're on the market for 2 weeks, everybody's panicking. So, is that bizarre or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strange.
So, Lisa, what did you have for current competition, and what did you bracket?
I don't have any idea, but I picked 5 homes
Okay.
because I wasn't
Which
sure.
ones?
If we thought it was 450, I figured buyers above 5 might not be included.
I agree.
And then I went down as low as 419 because I was thinking buyers between 4 and 5.
I totally agree. Anybody else have something different?
I actually went up to 520 on the top side.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So you thought
Included 8.
you thought buyers looking at a home that was listed at 450 would also look at a home that was listed at 5 1/4, maybe?
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely stretching. And
Yeah.
what I was really looking at
And if
was,
I were you, if I were presenting that to the seller, I would tell them that this might be stretching it, Mr.
Right.
Seller.
but I didn't feel like if we're at 550 and I stop at the 450 and I stop at 449, I've got nothing above that.
Yeah.
And there's a big jump between 449 and 509. I felt like, well, I have to include something above our price, figuring it's in some kind of average.
Correct.
And once I did that, I said, well, 509 is not different than 510. There's somewhat of a break between 510
Well, I
and
wanna
520, but there's much more of a break between 520 and 535. So that's kind of my natural break
Okay.
in the data set as well.
What's your name?
Lester.
Lester, I like your thought process. The thing that you mentioned was that I needed to have some kind of an average. The purpose of this is not to create an average
Okay.
or to put 450 in the middle. Throw average out the window for this part of it.
Okay.
And this is reality. So, my question to you was, is a buyer that is looking at a home listed at 450 going to look at a home that's 5 1/4? I don't think so.
Okay.
Usually not. Maybe up to 500. Even that 509 one is probably out of range.
Gotcha.
So the reality is, in my opinion, what we're trying to show the seller is, these are the homes that really I think you're gonna be seriously competing with. The home that's at 509, 5.25, there's a reason that they're priced that way. Probably they're nicer, way nicer. They've got an extra room or a bonus room, or their kitchen is dialed in. And so I don't know if I honestly, and a buyer that can afford 450 probably cannot afford 5.25. That's just my opinion now. But I see what you were trying to do, Lester, by saying, well, I need to have, like, put them in the middle and have an average. Nah, I think it's more into really what's a buyer going to do, and I don't think they would do that. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No,
like
that's
that, but-
fine, and this is a kind of an ex-occupational hazard. I come out of market research.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm used to looking at
Average.
data sets in a much different way, and so this is some part of the adjustment I
Okay.
have to make.
Perfect, so
So-
that explains, I knew that's what you were doing. So I wanted you to pull that hat off.
Yeah.
And look at it as if, and the other way to look at it is if your buyer tells you, hey, Kevin, we only want to look at homes that are up to, 475.
Mm-hmm.
They will look at the 450 and maybe the 419, maybe not the
But on the
419.
low side, yeah.
But will they go up to 5.25? That's a pretty big jump.
big
They're not
jump,
going to
yeah.
do it. Most buyers segment their into like $25,000 increments. So you're at 450 to you're 3 increments above where a buyer looking at a 450 home. Now you could be right. There could be some buyer that's really approved for 550 and they decide they're going to go look at the
Or
450s.
if it's been on the market a long time, they could go in and offer less.
Yeah, but see, the buyer, you're looking at a different quality of buyer, honestly. A buyer who is really comfortable with spending 5.25 likely is not going to buy a home that's 450 because they can afford to buy something and get more bells and whistles.
Bang for the buck, yeah.
So that's the reality of it, and it's all opinion. So
The other thing I see here now that you pointed out, though, is I see a jump between that 449 and the 509 between 3 bedrooms and then 5 bedrooms.
yeah.
So that would probably also tell us the configuration of our subject house would put us back into that part of the list as well,
Yeah.
most likely.
A buyer looking at that home wants 4 or 5 bedrooms.
Right.
The home at 450 probably doesn't have it, although this one actually does. So it's questionable. So the point is there is no right answer or no wrong answer, but as you're pointing this out to your seller in your pre-listing appointment, you're saying, I really think these are your competition, so we've got 5 homes here. Why don't we go take a look at a few of those homes, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and see what we're up against. Offer that too, by the way, guys, because you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Now, when you go show those homes, you're not really going to tell the listing agent that that's what you're up to. You're just going to say, I'd like to show the home. And it's okay. Now, also, because you offered this to your seller, one more reason why you offered this and the other realtors didn't. Oh, Kevin's in 4 things that these other realtors. Now, the other realtors may be offering other things. I don't know.
Well, the other thing that occurs to me that happens when you do that is that kind of puts them in the mindset of looking at houses with you. If they're going to be turning around and buying another house, it almost makes that next step
Oh yeah,
for you.
you're so right, Lester. It locks you in
Yeah,
big time.
yeah.
Yeah. And then be ready for the question, well, if we let you list our home and then you're going to help us buy a home, can you give us a discount? Be ready for that. You should have already talked to that with your broker about that and how you're going to answer that.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
I
And then
sold-
we're going to take a break.
Okay, I've sold 2 homes for the same family already. Actually, no, I sold one, just closed on the one they bought. And they're wanting to list their home with me. Okay. Where would you go with that?
Do you feel obligated to do that? Are they
No.
asking for it?
They're not asking for it, they want to pay me. I feel
Let
like,
them.
I know,
Don't
but,
do it unless you have to.
okay.
You are a professional.
I'm worth it, I know that.
Let me ask you this. If you went in for a surgery and the doctor charged you
This is my
2,000
third knee surgery.
he charged you $2,000, and then you went in for a second surgery, would you feel like you need to say, well, can I have a discount? Because you're,
No, because I want them to do a good job.
yeah, you want to, you don't want to disincentivize them.
Or even car repair.
And that, you're paying for, it's a whole separate transaction. You're going to have tons of emotion, up and downs, tons of advice. You've worked hard to get to the point where each one is individual. So don't do it unless you have to.
Okay.
Or unless you want to. If you want to, that's different. But you still got to get it approved with your broker.
Yeah.
I really want to do this for them because they are hard, they're going through a hardship.
Right.
And I feel like I can afford to, can I take, $2,000 off or whatever, half a point off the listing of their home, but get it approved.
Okay.
If it's under 5.
Now, if you
or-
normally list at 6 and you're going to bring it down to 5.5, it's up to you.
So if you're listing a home, do you usually do the 3%? Is that your standard, and then 2.5% for the selling or buying agent?
This is, so I generally, my homes are listed at 5%.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the answer to that question for me.
Okay.
If I am competing, and I know I'm competing, and they've told me I'm competing, and the other realtor has said that they will offer us a discount because we're going to sell and buy,
Yeah.
usually that's the only time that I may give on that. Because to me, if I'm competing and I can get 4.5% or even 4% on the one transaction and 2.5% on the other, and it adds up to $1 million worth of sale or whatever, I mean, I'm only throwing away maybe $5,000 or $6,000 to get, 18 or what. I'm just throwing out numbers, but so yes, but I like everybody else need to check with my broker, and I've already done that. So he's given me his answer to that. For me, the answer he gives me might be different that he gives Lisa. So
Okay.
talk it over with your broker. And then let's take a 5-minute break, potty break, and then come back and we'll get into them. Now we're going to talk about L2, listing appointment number 2. Oops. Sorry, that was gross. Just Apple, don't worry.
Don't do that in your listing.
Yeah, don't do that. I gave everybody your L2 notes here, and so now the goal
Were
of
there
your...
L1 notes? I missed that on
I should have, if you didn't get them, let me know, I got more.
I might,
Yeah, I
I
put
deserve
it-
them. I was late. That's what I get to do.
just gave it to you just now, a minute ago.
I got the L2. Yeah.
Oh, the
What I
L2.
said is, were there L1 ones that I didn't
Oh,
get
you
because I was
probably
late?
don't have
Yeah.
that one.
Oh, this one.
Lady pants.
Thank you.
Not lady, lady.
Yeah.
Lady pants. All right, so L2, listing appointment number 2, you made it. They asked you to come back. Or at least you've scheduled it. So now you need to shift a little bit into what is the goal of L2. L2, you've got to have some pretty specific understanding of their home, the value of their home, how you're going to market their home, how you're going to answer the other questions that they will be asking, including that question again about, well, what do you charge? By the way, when someone says, well, how much is your commission? When I answer that, I say, the brokerage fee is. The reason that I say that is I like people have this image that I get all this money, right? That's not the truth. The truth is this is a brokerage fee, and then the brokerage is taking a percentage of this commission, and I'm keeping a percentage of the commission, and then Uncle Sam is keeping half of that. But
And you're paying.
yeah, and I'm paying for the marketing of the home and everything else. Yeah, and then, yes, we're paying for the marketing agent. But language, the term broker fee, I think sets you apart a little bit. You're not just a used car salesman getting a commission. The other word that again, that separates me from being a used car salesman is the word deal. Yeah, I've got 3 deals in escrow. I don't like to use that term. I say I have 3 transactions in escrow. again, we're trying to separate ourselves from the commission used car sale deal maker. We already have that image, unfortunately, that we fight. But once you become a professional, you should say, I am working on 3 transactions. I have a buyer transaction going on. You know, it's way more powerful than a deal. Just my advice. The goal of this meeting, L2, is to leave with a signed listing agreement. But Kevin, don't you bring a listing agreement to the first appointment? No, I don't. And if they want to sign a listing agreement after the first appointment, I'll be totally excited, but I'll have to go back to my office and prepare it. Because I just don't bring it. I don't like to be presumptive like that. And it's never really happened. It's just never really happened. Because people want to talk about their home. Again, it's about them. Unless they've already told you on the phone, they were referred to you by your brother, we got to get it on the market in 5 days. Can you just come over? We want to get it going. We got to sign this thing and get it going. Well, that doesn't happen very often. So I don't bring it. In the past, I have brought a blank one just to give to them and leave it in the packet. I suppose that's an okay idea, so that they can read through it and you can say, this is what you will be signing. But I don't even like to go there, because that first meeting is supposed to be light, a little bit lighter. It's not that formal meeting that we're now getting into here. So that's just my opinion. You will be educating the prospect on the value of their home, the value of hiring you, and the value of SUMA. By now, you should have thought through and practiced very carefully what you'll say about yourself and SUMA, and why they should hire you. You may not even know that. Again, talk to your principal broker. Well, I really struggle with this. I really don't know why they should hire me, you know. But I think if you were to work through it with your broker, you'd come up with a pretty good answer to that. You've got a great teamwork of people here, for one thing. And every year you are in the business, this answer should become more and more powerful. And that's why I said to you guys, you know, what are you doing this year to build this so that next year or the year after you really got some meat, right? You've got a reason for them to hire you other than you're a nice person and you're smart and you've maybe been in the business 2 or 3 years, but you do want to set yourself apart, and there are ways to do it, and that's one way I recommend. You don't need to fill up your whole page, but you need maybe 1 or 2 things besides being a realtor and PMAR and RMLS that you've gone above and beyond to learn more, to get a designation that means something. I do recommend GRI. Look into that. I was telling Lisa, often in my listing appointments, I will say to them, it's like this. So when you get your license, it's kind of like graduating high school as a realtor. But there are other designations that you can get, and you have to take classwork and you have to accomplish things to get them, just like college. The GRI, Graduate of Realtor Institute, is kind of similar to getting your college degree as a realtor. You've gained another 30, 40 hours of additional training and classroom time that is important. It goes above and beyond the general continuing ed training that we as realtors have to do every 2 years. This is above that. It's an addition to. So not only am I doing the additional 30 hours of continuing ed, I'm also doing another 30 to 40 hours of Graduate Realtor Institute stuff that I've already done that, and so I've graduated college as a realtor, so to speak. On the top of that, I have a CRS designation, which is another level, and I like to consider that like getting your PhD. And that's maybe not true, it's not that hard, but it shows them the levels that you're at versus maybe the person that came before. So if you go in a year from now, if Lisa's able to say, I've just finished, I've attained my Graduate Realtor Institute designation, and you know, she explains the whole thing. It gives them another reason to trust her that she knows what she's talking about when she tells you their home is worth $450. Right? So they want to be able to believe you. So I know you're new and there's a lot being thrown at you, but try to carve out some time, and sometimes it's a little bit of money too to take these designations. So carve it out in your budget, but make it a goal that maybe, okay, by this time next year, I'm going to have my GRI. I got 12 months, or maybe 18 months, whatever it is, but put it in your plan. Items, let's see, there will be several hours of prep work for you for this meeting. You need to study the neighborhood, drive around, study the schools, parks, other features nearby that you kind of need to be familiar with that so that you can talk intelligently to them if these subjects come up. You also want to look around for what the challenges might be. You don't want to come in and make them feel bad about their home living next door to a neighbor who keeps a couch on the front lawn. But they already know about that, and then so it may come up that this issue in the neighborhood is an issue, and could make the home harder to sell. Let's talk it through. But you want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you need to be able to understand your own CMA, the one that you work through. You need to be able to understand it so that you can explain it to them. You may not need to go into full detail about that CMA, but you do need to be able to say, the framework is that I took the local area, we went out, this time I only went out a half a mile because I really didn't need to go further out. Because the closer in for comps, the more true the value is, the better the comp. And so you want to keep it in as close as possible. And you tell them that I went back 3 months for solds because the market's been hot. I didn't need to go back 6 months. And you tell them, then I take and I have information from an experienced appraiser. I have a guideline sheet where I make adjustments for the differences between your home and each comparable home, and I make number adjustments and it changes the value of what your home would be worth. Okay? And it's not just numbers that I'm throwing out willy-nilly, but those are from a guideline sheet from a experienced appraiser. Now, some of these adjustments are conditional, such as the condition of the, or some of these are subjective, such as the condition of the home. Well, the appraiser guideline sheet that Dave shared with us doesn't have, condition. It's your best opinion. This one has a beautiful kitchen, this one doesn't. What's the value? What's the value an appraiser would maybe give to that? It's not always the value of what it costs them to build that kitchen. It's less, usually like about half. So it's your best guess, and you tell them that. But Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have, with my knowledge and with this guideline sheet, it's probably as close to value as you're going to, without getting an appraisal. It's going to be pretty accurate, and way more accurate than Zillow. Now, what happens is sometimes you say that, and then Zillow was actually correct.
It happens.
So it happens. So be
Law
careful.
of large numbers. Yes.
Be careful, or have that be ready that if Zillow was correct, that you say, you know what? I looked at the comps that Zillow had, and my comps are different, but we did come out with just about the same number. So in this case, Zillow was accurate with their number, but not how they got to that number. So what I'm telling you is the way that I got to the number was more precise. It's kind of a fluke that we have the same number. So it does happen.
If people can win the lottery, Zillow can get a price right.
Yeah, really. All right, so you need to understand, right? So that's why Dave teaches that class. It's great. If you haven't taken it, please do. It's wonderful. And maybe if you're brand new, it was like, phew. It's because it's, especially if you don't.
Intensive.
It's intensive, and if you haven't even taken the RMLS class yet on how to do a CMA, you're like, okay, it's a lot.
So we had an RMLS class last week.
Awesome. Excuse me for coughing. All right. Items to prepare for this meeting really are the three big ones are the CMA, seller's net sheet, which is you're going to get help from your title company on that. We're going to go over that in a second. But what that does is it tells the seller if your home did sell at $450, and you paid all the broker fees and you paid the cost of closing and escrow, here's what you end up with, which doesn't include any costs that you need to make for repairs. It doesn't include that. It's just the costs of selling. And it gives them an idea. And I always tell them this is not exact. It's very close. But it's based on what you're telling me you owe on the home, which you've already asked that question, by the way. What do you? And that's on that seller's profile sheet that you came in late. But that seller profile sheet on the back side says the mortgage information. You want to get that from them, so that you can do the seller's net sheet. And then the taxes and yada yada. So, and then number 3, your seller presentation, which is that lovely thing. This is mine, you can pass it around. This is something I designed before Summa did theirs. The Summa one is beautiful. And I just recommend you use that one. I just happen to use mine because, you know, I'm used to it. And this is the Summa one. This one already has a CMA in it as well, which is what Lisa mentioned earlier.
You didn't have copies of the sheet you fill out, right?
I don't. I'm
So
going to
we'll
send
get it
that
after
to you.
this. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm going to send that to you. Okay? So if you can't, those are like $10. I don't know, you know, the very least, I put my CMAs in this. I don't use the hardbound folder for this, but you could do them both in this. Just, you know, go to Home Depot and get a report cover. But, you know, snazz it up a little bit. But this is really good. You know, at least one of my folders, I try to have that. And then maybe my CMA is just this. That's fine. Okay? Make sure your seller presentation, though, talks a little bit about you and your unique selling points. Like why, you know, even if it's, you know, coming from the nursing profession, I worked with people and blah, blah, you know, whatever that is, without going too far, is that's why you stand out, is that you've got these certain things about you. And then also rely on Summa and who they are. I actually need to take I need to hijack some of the Summa stuff in their presentation and add it to mine. And I realized that just this week when I was putting this together, I go, Summa's got some really cool stuff in there that I need to steal and add to mine. So.
In my listening presentation, I always show the property websites that we do.
That's a good idea too. Yeah, if you've got your iPad, yeah, go show them that.
And they don't know who's making it. You can tell them that you made the website. It doesn't matter, you know.
Right.
That you make the websites for all your listings, you know.
Absolutely. That's a great idea.
So.
Okay. The presentation should also have, you know, general information on how to prepare their home. You've seen these things. How to price their home, the dangers of overpricing, step-by-step process on the outline of selling a home, which is, you know, that's what this is good. This little guy, where'd he go? This thing's pretty good. They have these in your office, you can order them. This general guideline. You've already given them that, and then my presentation has another kind of similar version to that. And I think there's one in the Summa thing too. Summa presentation. Okay? So, I mean, you got to prepare those things. So the CMA, that's like what? That's going to be 3 hours at least, right? Probably. Especially if you're new at it. And the net sheet, that doesn't take very long, and actually I get mine on, I work with WFG National Title, and on their website they have a tab that I can just go up and click on seller's net sheet, and they have it all in computerized, so I just enter in sales price, taxes, you know, the basic info, and then it calculates everything, and it's very accurate, and then I can print it out from there, or save it to my desktop. And there's a copy of that in all this stuff here if you want. I'll put this over here. Oh no, I'll leave it here for now because I'm going to have to grab it. All right, so CMA, there it is. Happy. What is this? This is the seller's net sheet. This is kind of what it looks like. So all I did was enter in the sales price, the taxes, annual taxes, the amount of their mortgage, and then basically, and then the closing date, when approximate month that it would close. Sometimes you don't know, so you just, because the number can change depending on the month it closes, because it changes the taxes. And then the broker fee, that goes in there. And then if there's a home warranty, you know that they want, you know, you can put that in there. I usually leave it out, but, and then it gives them a total. Well, if they hire me and this is everything, it's gonna be $57,000. This is what they net. They always want to know that. And let me tell you, if they haven't asked you by now how much you charge, you have now told them, this is what my fee is. Do you go any lower than that? No, I don't. That's the lowest my brokerage will allow. But I'm giving that low rate to you. Some other realtors, a lot of them will go higher. I'm not doing that to you. And I'm worth it for all the reasons that we're going to talk about. So you kind of need to stand firm sometimes in a nice way and say, no, I don't go. And then I might say sometimes, you know, if I know then that they're selling or they're going to buy a home, this is where the conversation happens, right? This is where everything, but we're going to buy a home, you know. Sometimes I will say, you know what, I'm not allowed to offer discounts and I need to check with my principal broker, but I can't, you know, I'll have to get back to you on that. It buys me a little time. And then I can decide whether I want to do that or not, or let my broker decide, you know, and then I can come back and say, well, it wasn't approved. But how about if when you go to buy your home, I'd like to buy you a home warranty for your home when you buy your house. Would that be good? Yeah. Or I might cave and say, you know what, he approved, we can do 4.5. Or, you know, I'm not able to give you a discount off when you sell your home. But I'll tell you what, if you use me to buy your home, I'll negotiate with the other realtor to lower my brokerage fee just a little bit, and then the seller also to lower your sales price a little bit in the same amount. So that way, that's really locking you in, right? Because you could give them a discount on the listing of their home, and then they might turn around and not use you.
Mm-hmm.
So because you never know what people will do. So this way you're kind of putting that discount on the next one to sort of reassure that you're going to get both transactions. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Again, all of this, and I'm on film saying this, talk to your principal broker. You should really have a strategy for this. And listen to what they say and do that. Don't do what I do. Okay. Page 2. Now we're into the prep list. Prep list. Oh, you know what? I don't think I included that. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, that's just my, the front cover of my presentation. You have thought about their home, you've looked at the pictures, you've decided what things you're going to suggest to them that needs to happen with their house to get it ready to sell. You already have this done, okay? So, and you've broken it into, I like to break it into, instead of just giving them one list that's a run-on list of, you know, has no priority to it, this tells them what your opinion is of the highest priority that I really feel. You could also call it must do, but that's a little pushy. I don't like to say must do, but high priority. These are the things I suggest you really got to do to sell your house if you want to make top dollar. Medium priority, these are things that, yeah, you should do these two. Of course, this may depend on, all of these two categories may depend on your budget. But if I had to choose between washing your gross windows versus repairing the side fence, the board that's missing on the side fence, I'd rather, you should spend the money on washing the windows. Leave the fence alone, right? So every house will be different. These are all just, I made these up, doesn't mean anything. Low priority is just like, hey, if you want to go for it and do all this stuff, then do these things too, because this will help. And if you want to spend a little more money to do that, great. I don't think you need to, but it'd be great. It's a lower priority, okay? But you've thought it through. You're giving them good advice on what you think they should do to get that home sold. I had one of these newer agents came into me. She had all her pictures. She had no clue what to suggest. She goes, I just don't know what to, I have all the pictures of the house. And I sat down with her for about 45 minutes, and we looked at all the pictures. And I gave her what I thought based on what I saw. And it really helped her a lot. So if you go on a listing appointment and then you're not sure, talk to another experienced agent or your broker and say, well, what do you think? Everybody at SUMA is willing to help. That's the cool thing. If they have time, they'll help you. So you're going in there assuming they're going to sign the listing, and hooray, I'm already in my head, I'm like, I'm going to get this, right? Even if I'm competing, I'm assuming I'm going to get it. So I'm preparing as though I've got it. So here are the documents, and they're listed here. And if you haven't done this one already, you have to do it now. So you should have done it before, you have to do it now. If for some reason you screw up and you haven't done it, you need to do it before you go on the market. You got to get this done, right? Just don't get in trouble with that. The listing agreement is 6 pages. The first 3 pages of your listing agreement are the contract itself, and the particulars of that's not what this class is for. I won't get into that, but you should take a listing. Maybe somebody needs to design that class, but if you see anybody offering a class on how to fill this out and all that, and I guess it would be partially RMLS and partially maybe another realtor teaching what they do. But you just need to read it, first of all, and if you don't understand any of it, go over it again with an experienced agent or your broker so that you kind of understand it, because you now, in your appointment, have to summarize it for your prospect. So you need to know to tell them what they're signing, but I always clarify with them, I'm not an attorney. This contract was written by the RMLS and their attorneys, and I believe in conjunction with the Oregon Real Estate Agency. And so this contract is, all of the realtors use this. This is not something that SUMA came up with. So just so you know, all of this boilerplate language is in there for everybody listing their home. That pretty much everybody uses this contract. They don't have to, but most do that use a realtor. So there's nothing really in here that can harm you. It's really when we start adding things in that it changes, the meaning of something. So there's nothing in here that can harm you. And this is what I tell them is, by the way, there's nothing in here that can harm you, because I've already told you that if you decide that you're going to tear up this listing, we'll tear it up. I have no problem with that. And even if I've spent $500 on marketing, it's okay. It's okay. I'll go on to the next listing and I'll get that money in the future. It's fine. I'm not worried about it, and you shouldn't either, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. But here's what the contract says in summary, and if you don't understand anything, let me know. Then you go through each paragraph, right? So that's another thing for you guys to learn, sorry. But you want to start reading that listing agreement and see, what does it say? And you had a great question about, well, what's the 60-day thing where if they, and you were almost right. And the thing that you missed was a very minor detail, but it could have mattered someday. So make sure you go over it with your broker and practice. Maybe with another agent who's experienced, and say, can I practice with you? Can I sit down with you and pretend like you're a seller and talk about this agreement? And then maybe you can correct me in what I have wrong. And so, it doesn't hurt to ask. If they're too busy, they won't. The other 3 pages are what the RMLS requires. most of it's required, some of it's not, but you'll have to go in and fill in all the questions about the listing itself, and you'll have all those answers by then because you've already done your seller profile sheet, you've already taken all those pictures. You're going to pretty much, you've looked at the trio, you're going to know pretty much everything the RMLS is asking about that listing. There might be a couple of things that you weren't sure about, but, and these forms are kind of a nightmare. When I present those 3 pages to my seller at the listing, I don't explain all of it. Excuse me. All I do is say, this is required from the RMLS. It's all of the details about your home that are going to go on the listing. I'd like to ask you to initial at the bottom of each page right now that I've given it to you or shown it to you. And then I'm going to have you, before we go on the market, I'm going to have you look at the actual listing. And then I want you to approve that as well. So don't worry, this is not actually maybe completely all the way done yet, but I still need you to initial it. It's not a big deal. And they all go, okay, the initial, all right? Now I'm on film saying that, and I could be totally like, somebody might object. So everything that I tell you today, maybe you should run by your principal broker. This is what I do. I've never had a problem with it. But the principal broker, now see, the reason that we're having them initial this stuff is that we're going on market. We're advertising. So we want them to initial that they've approved it, so then it shifts the liability of if we're wrong from us being wrong to them being, the seller being wrong. Like if I have in there that it's if I have in there that it's, you know, that it's 2,400 square feet and it's actually 2,250, and because whatever reason, maybe I'm, you know, it just wasn't accurate. And then the buyer of that home comes back and complains, and there's some stupid little lawsuit or something. It wasn't my fault. I showed it to the seller, they reviewed it, and they approved it, right? That's the idea of that. Now, whether or not I would be off the hook on that particular thing, I probably, you know, wouldn't because I screwed up, but anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, get them to initial it, and then before you go on the market, send them a draft of the final version, and say, hey, let's look this over. Let me know if you have any questions. Make sure check everything, and then if it's good, here's the DocuSign. Just sign it, and we're off and running. This darn form. This is a new form. You got to have it because it's called the authorization to exclude from RMLS, from MLS, addendum. It goes with the listing agreement in almost every case because the RMLS requires that if you're not listing the home, I think it's 72 hours, within 72 hours of signing the listing agreement with the seller, you have to include this, required. And the RMLS is very worried that the seller will not want to put that home on the RMLS. They're worried that they'll want to, that they're worried. That's all I can say. I don't like this form, personal thing. The seller has to initial and sign about 15 places, all because the RMLS is worried that for whatever reason, this form is, that the seller will not use the RMLS. And it's just, to me, it's way overkill, but it's required.
Yes, but it's more to protect the seller.
Yes.
So that he is getting the most for his home that he can get by putting
Yes.
it on the RMLS.
That's their opinion is,
and
yes.
you are saying to them, you have to put on there, I'm excluding it from RMLS until this date.
Yes. You're
And-
excluding it for 2 weeks or whatever it is. Yeah. But we are, or you have to put on that we
we're
are not
putting
using
it
the
on.
RMLS. That's an option too,
If
and
it's
they
a
have to
pocket
sign that.
listing.
Yeah, we're not using the RMLS. And so the RMLS goes through each paragraph saying, you know, if you don't use the RMLS, this could happen. If you do use the RMLS, this could happen. And da-da-da-da-da, down the thing. So they're educating, they're making sure the sellers are educated of the advantage of the RMLS. Now, obviously, they've had a problem with this, so they made the form. So I probably don't know the full scope of why they're doing it.
Huh.
For me, as a listing agent, to have 2 more documents where there's 15 initials and signatures and dates needed. I don't know why they didn't just write all this out and have them sign it once, like every other document that you see. But they want to do it different, and without sounding like I'm complaining, because I really don't care, because in the end I explain it and it gets signed and it's fine.
But it's very tedious for a buyer.
Very
Anybody
tedious.
has to go,
It's
"That's-
one more a lot of signatures.
Can't even
Anyway.
just make them mad at the
I
RMLS.
actually, I emailed them and asked if this could be changed to make it less overkill, and they said, nope,
I'll be darned.
this is what we're doing.
This way
That's
they're
okay.
they're more likely to read each bullet point by breaking it
They
down. by
did.
initial,
They wanted people to be more powerful that way.
rather than just sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
They gotten any feedback that's actually blowing up in their face and making people mad at the RMLS?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think, because the realtors, part of our
Handling it so smoothly.
yeah, part of our job is to we get this obstacle and we smooth it over.
Right,
That's what we do.
yeah.
Okay, and then the other required document from SUMA is this one. Can anyone explain this? Okay, that's okay, yeah. So, take a look at this too. I'm sorry this is all so fuzzy. It's because the screen is not portrait.
Where do you find this
Portrait?
anyway?
This
Yeah,
is,
good question. That's a
this
good
is
question.
on back 8, well, they just got rid of back 8. So they're moving all these documents onto.
We're moving them all into Basecamp and getting rid of back
Yeah.
agent and basically replicating what back agent has to offer within Basecamp. And
Yeah,
creating
so
a-
it's there.
Yeah, how long is it
I
gonna
have
take?
one if you need it.
Oh, we got a team of coders working on it at all times, so hopefully
ASAP.
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
SUMA requires this. TC
But for now, we'll keep
transaction
our jobs,
coordinators
like,
will,
for those
they'll hit you with this.
Oh, yeah.
They may, you may get down close to closing time and then suddenly they're like, hey, we need this. But it's better to do this one up front, and the reason is it advises the seller that of a recent occurrence is that exactly what we were talking about earlier, the county tax assessors they've hired extra people, literally, to go through listings, to look at listings that look like they've been upgraded, modified, such that the value is more than what was currently assessed. So when a realtor says, beautiful remodel from the studs up, and or addition added on, adding 600 square feet of this gorgeous blah, 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 because we as realtors, make it fantastic. So that's what the assessors are looking at going, okay, when did they do that? Well, that's not on our records. And the assessors then actually reassess based on that information on the listing. They get it right off the listing, and then they do a reassessment letter. They send it to the owner of the property and they say, we noticed this, and we have reassessed your property this much more. And not only that,
Got
we-
about 5.
we're going back 5 years because you did it 8 years ago, but we can only go back 5. So we're doing all 5, and so you owe us this much money. And moving forward, your new tax rate is this much. So it affects, this listing that we're about to do can affect the seller in their pocketbook. So if you do have one of those homes that has been remodeled from the studs up, or it's got some significant improvements that you think, whoa, the taxes probably would have changed had the county, heard about this, then this is what this is for. It's basically, we've advised you, Mr. Seller, that we're going to go online. We're probably going to talk about these things, and the assessor could assess you. Now, if you have a home that hasn't had anything done, you don't have to worry about it. You just tell them, this is what the form is, this is why we have it, and it doesn't affect you, but I still need you to sign it.
Doesn't it usually take an addition of, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
doesn't it usually take an addition of square footage to change the tax assessment? I mean, if you just remodel a kitchen but you don't change the square
No.
footage, could that still have
No.
a tax implication?
Anything that the assessor feels adds value.
If you
okay.
completely redid a kitchen, you
You
don't
add
change.
5,000 to your value, then they're gonna,
Well, you could add you could put $100,000 into a kitchen,
right.
and that will increase the value, not by 100,000, but You don't have to
substantially.
change the square footage or anything.
Okay, yeah, that's true, okay, good point.
You know, I think those assessors are looking for obvious
Yeah,
value increases, like they may see somebody, you know, added a complete, you know, another section onto the home.
right,
Or they see that the home, when it was assessed, was built in the 1978, and it went from being the generic 78 home to now they have dialed in, everything has been updated, right? So they look at that and they go, yeah, no, that home is worth way more than 250, and it's on the market for 475.
right.
So they're looking at that going, well, the realtor's got it on the market 475, our market assessed value is 280.
Big gap.
There's a big gap.
But-
And
but
then
most-
that's when they propose the letter and they send it out, and you don't get a choice.
But most of the time, they come out to your door and knock, hey, can I come in?
Yeah, don't they have to
They've
come
done
out?
that to me.
They can base it off of the
No, but
listing.
when
That's
they
what
come
I'm
knock on the
told.
door, you just say, hey, you're not coming in this house,
Right.
sorry. You just
Don't
close
let
the
'em
door
in.
on them,
No, I'm
And
told
they
that they
come
don't
in-
have to do that.
because they did at my house.
Not when, I'm told that they can go just by the listing and the pictures and the information that the realtor has put on.
I know that they do have watchdogs out there doing that constantly, trying to get more money, basically.
Yeah, it's because they're
They can go to open houses
They're digging
to
up-
get in.
Yeah.
digging up money,
You
you
have
know,
to, like,
unfortunately.
be careful
So,
about that.
that's why SUMA has now required that we inform everyone of that, right? And so, it's always a good idea to tell your buyers too, that if you have a buyer buying a home and they're talking about, oh, we're gonna remodel that, we're gonna remodel this, we're gonna do this, all these changes, right? And then you might, at some point, you might wanna say, by the way, just know that the county could reassess your property when you remodel. Document that you said it, and then let them buy the home.
On this one, if it's the sellers and if they do end up needing, they do get taxed and owe more taxes, can that come out at closing? Or do they have to pay that?
It's a separate thing. No, it's just money owed, it's just a debt.
Right.
It's a separate bill, they just get a bill. It has nothing to do with the sale of their home.
Well,
That's
what if they
profit
can't
right there.
afford to pay that bill?
You
Until
still owe
they
it, it's a
sell the
tax,
house.
it's
Yeah.
a tax debt. Well, then,
Then it can
they
come
don't
out.
expect
It
you, I
goes
mean,
out.
I think you have a grace period to pay it, just like any other tax, I don't know what they expect there. I don't absolutely know that, but, you know, typically your home's gonna sell soon enough that you could then pay it.
Mhm.
They could also, you know, it doesn't matter, they owe it. It's like any other tax debt, you pay it or, you know, or you get penalized a fee.
Oh, I'm just wondering if you could put that in your net sheet.
Oh, well, yeah, I just wouldn't go that far, yeah, I wouldn't. I would do this, and again, we're smoothing things over here, we're not creating
This could
problems.
happen, just so you know.
It could happen, and you're gonna know with that particular listing whether it's a possibility or not. So if it is a possibility, you're gonna be very careful in explaining it, and then also you're gonna be careful. The other option is to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the other option, it's up to you, is I can put a picture of the front of the house, and maybe a couple of rooms, or maybe not, and I have to put the front of the house, it's required by the RMLS. But we don't have to have any other pictures than that. And also I can really tone down my language about the home. And basically we just say it's for sale. We don't tell anybody about the remodel or any of that. Then the seller's like, well, shoot, you know, I don't get to really like talk up my home. Well, we can, but there's
Yeah,
this
but there's a
risk.
price, right.
So it's up to them in the end. You're just advising. And then you're letting them decide.
Yeah, and you asked about putting the potential tax in the what was
Be
it?
paid out
The
of
net
clo-
sheet?
at
Yeah.
closing?
w-
Oh.
if you did that, wouldn't that also potentially open you up to liability because
Yeah.
you're assessing it?
Well, yeah, because
I'm not a-
really-
you're
I
not a
wouldn't
tax-
know what
you
an
put on
assessor
there.
is
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
charge.
Well, if they got the bill.
If they get the bill, I mean, you could if they need to. Yes,
Anyway,
you
I'm
could.
not going to, never mind.
This is that would be a
My mind
very,
is always thinking like the
yeah,
next
what
step.
if, what if, what
Yeah,
if.
always what ifs. I'm terrible.
That
at
one is an extreme, so let that one go.
Okay.
Well, you're in a
Bye-bye.
good business to not get caught off guard in, and if you're always ready for the what if.
You don't, yeah, they'll know that if you've given them a seller net sheet and they know that they've